So the 2025 NFL schedule not only has some incredible matchups planned, but some of these games are honestly set up in such an intriguing way that several of them could shatter previous records because of it. So I've got to take a look at some of the most fantastic matchups, a running back getting a huge raise, an unfortunate injury, wide receiver visits, and more right after. Alright, first up, the Baltimore Ravens and Derrick Henry, King Henry himself, have agreed on a 2-year, $30 million extension that includes $25 million guaranteed over the next 2 seasons. He had just 1 year and $7 million left on his contract, but now he'll make a fully guaranteed $14 million in 2025, a fully guaranteed $11 million in 2026, with the Ravens having a potential out in 2027. He might be 31 years old, but is still elite and doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Father Time is undefeated, as we all know, but Henry seems to be pushing back against that, at least for now, and the Ravens believe he still has plenty left in the tank. In his first season with Baltimore, Henry rushed for over 1,900 yards, scored 18 total touchdowns, and averaged 5.9 yards per carry, by far the best of his career. He did all that at 30 years old, which is far from normal. Saquon Barkley, for comparison's sake, just turned 28 in February, so he's still 3 years younger. I think most of us know that a part of Henry's success last year is that he benefited from having Lamar Jackson at quarterback, who the defense is always keeping tabs on because he is a true dual threat to be feared, quite possibly the scariest dual-threat quarterback in the entire NFL. However, it's not like any of Lamar's previous running backs were putting up those elite numbers, so Derrick Henry definitely deserves a ton of credit. It's pretty wild, but if he rushes for over 1,300 yards this season, he'll move into the top 10 in career rushing yards all time in NFL history. Ian Rappaport shared that the Ravens wanted to make sure he finished his career in Baltimore, and this extension makes it appear like that is exactly what's going to happen. It's been pretty cool to see the running back market get a bit of a boost this offseason. Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry were the 2 best running backs in the league last year, and both of their respective teams rewarded them for the seasons they had. Saquon became the highest paid running back in NFL history, and Derrick Henry became the highest paid running back over the age of 30 in NFL history. Then, Ashton Jeanty was taken 6th overall by the Raiders, which was the highest that a running back has been selected since 2018, when the Giants drafted Saquon Barkley himself 2nd overall. So Derrick Henry is there to stay, but sadly, the Ravens will be without safety Ardarius Washington for the entire 2025 season after he tore his Achilles during practice yesterday. The Ravens signed him as a UDFA back in 2021, and he really emerged about halfway through last season after Marcus Williams was benched. At one point, they had the worst passing defense in the league statistically, but after Washington took over for the last 10 games, the Ravens were 8th in passing yards allowed over that span. He wasn't the only reason for the success by any means, but definitely played a part, so it definitely sucks to see him go down with such a serious injury, especially considering he's already had 2 other major injuries in his short 4-year career. He broke his foot in 2021 and missed 7 games. Then in 2023, he missed almost the entire season with a chest injury. He'll be a free agent after this season, so hopefully a team gives him another shot, whether it's the Ravens or somebody else entirely. As for how this affects Baltimore, it's definitely a blow to the defense, but it just means their first-round pick, Malachi Starks, is likely going to be asked to contribute more right away. He's their long-term solution at safety next to Kyle Hamilton anyway, but now he's going to be leaned on quite a bit in his rookie year. And then former Bills and Jags wide receiver Gabe Davis visited with the New York Giants today. He signed a 3-year deal with the Jags just last year, but things didn't exactly go to plan as he caught just 20 passes and 2 touchdowns in 10 games before unfortunately tearing his meniscus, which ended his season early. Then just last week, the Jags actually released him with a failed physical designation, even though Jordan Schultz reported that Davis is expected to be healthy for the 2025 NFL season. For Davis, he's looking to bounce back after what was by far the worst year of his career even before the injury. He's never eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark, but during his 4 years in Buffalo, he was a pretty reliable deep threat down the field and was pretty consistent, catching 6 or more touchdowns every season as a Bill. The Giants are an interesting potential landing spot for him as he was with Brian Daboll when he was the offensive coordinator coordinator in Buffalo, so there's some familiarity there for sure. I don't know where he'd fall in the receiving pecking order. They have Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton, and Jalen Hyatt already, but I imagine he would still be a solid third or fourth option for somebody. He's also visited with the 49ers recently, and to me that's a team that makes a lot of sense as well. They traded away Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk is coming off that serious knee injury where he tore both his ACL and MCL. They did sign DeMarcus Robinson though, and have Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings there, plus George Kittle in the tight end room for sure, so Davis wouldn't be the primary option there either. Next up, it's officially schedule release day for the NFL, and by the time I drop this video, everybody's going to know the full schedule for every single team, but I don't care to go over all that. Instead, I want to look at some of the most intriguing games, with many of those already being leaked because they are the most exciting. We already knew the Chiefs and Broncos were playing on Christmas Day on Amazon Prime, but we now know the other two Christmas games that will be played on Netflix. The first is the Vikings and Lions, which will be played in Minnesota. Should be a banger of a game, but I don't think Lions linebacker Alex Anzalone is a fan because he responded to the news saying, "Breaks my heart." I think he's talking about missing time with his family on Christmas, which I get it. That part is definitely a bummer for the players, but it is not, for the most part, a bummer for the fans. And I'm sure if you're watching this video right now, you'll most likely be watching these games, as will I. The other game we'll be watching that day is the Cowboys and Commanders. That means all three games played on Christmas will be division rivalry games, which is pretty cool. The Commanders, by the way, have a whopping 8 games on primetime this year, which is what happens when you make the NFC Championship game with a rookie quarterback who's as fun to watch as Jaden Daniels is. Now, what's kind of crazy here is that the Lions, Cowboys, and Chiefs will all be playing on both Christmas and Thanksgiving. It was revealed earlier today that the Cowboys will be hosting the Chiefs for the 3:30 kickoff game on Thanksgiving Day. It makes sense from the league's perspective. Both of these teams are atop the TV ratings year after year, and by putting them against each other on a day where everybody is already watching football, don't be surprised if this game breaks the regular season viewership record entirely. In fact, it's almost safe to bet on that happening because 3 of the top 5 most viewed games ever involve the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. And honestly, nearly all these games in the top 10 have been played on Thanksgiving. Most of these weren't extremely exciting opponents either at the time, which is why it's safe to say this game, Cowboys, Chiefs, should break the current reported US viewership of 42.1 million views by quite a lot. So that's what we know for the holiday games, but let's go to the very beginning of the season, Week 1. We have the potential for a wild revenge game on 2 different sides. The New York Jets are opening up their season at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Justin Fields signed with the Jets in the offseason, so he'll be playing his former team. And then obviously Aaron Rodgers is expected to sign with the Steelers, so he'd be heading back to New York. And with how things ended there, the weird meeting with Aaron Glenn and all that, I would expect that to be a pretty fiery game all around. Then for the Week 1 primetime games, the Bills are going to be hosting the Ravens on Sunday Night Football in a little AFC divisional round rematch. Then the Vikings will travel to Chicago to play the Bears in what will be Ben Johnson's debut as a head coach and J.J. McCarthy's debut as an NFL quarterback. Then in Week 2, we have a Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and Eagles, with that game being played in KC in the 3:25 time window. Definitely can't wait for that one, personally. Hopefully the Chiefs can actually protect Mahomes this time around and they can get the dub in front of the home fans. And as much as people pretend to be upset about it, the Chiefs, of course, have quite a few primetime games, with one of those coming in Week 6 against the Detroit Lions. It's going to be on Sunday Night Football in Kansas City, and it'll be the first time these teams have played each other since the kickoff game in 2023, when the Lions pulled out a win thanks in part to Kadarius Toney's spatula hands. Warren Sharp even said the Chiefs are the first team in NFL history to receive 5 primetime games in the first 8 weeks of the season. Whether you love the Chiefs or you hate the Chiefs, a lot of people watch them primarily out of spite, I would imagine at this point in time, because they want to see the current dynasty lose week in and week out. But I digress about that. Now from here, I want to take a look at every team's strength of schedule, which is determined based on their opponent's win percentage from last year. There's several ways to factor a strength of schedule, but at least for now, this is how I'm looking at it, based on their opponent's win percentage from the previous year. The New York Giants actually have the toughest schedule, believe it or not, with the Bears, Lions, Eagles, and Cowboys rounding out the top 5. Then the 49ers, Saints, Patriots, Titans, and Panthers have the 5 weakest schedules. I will say, though, this is far from the best way to predict who's going to make the playoffs and who does not, because heading into the season, all 4 of the top 5 teams with the easiest schedule, at least last year is what I'm talking about, did not make the playoffs. On the flip side, 4 of the teams with the 5 hardest schedules did end up making the postseason. So a lot can change from year to year, different rosters, different coaches, injuries, all of it. So while certain teams may have a quote-unquote hard schedule right now, we really won't know for sure until we see how the season unfolds. And with that, that's all for today, so be safe and I'll see y'all next time.